Hey guys, in this tutorial I'm going to be showing you how to attach a script to this bookcase so that when the player walks up to it, they can press enter and slide the bookcase over, revealing the door or whatever you want to hide behind the bookcase. So first thing we need to do, sorry about that, make the action slide bookcase set E to polygon, so give it some collision and give it a shadow. And we're going to see set min max me set. There we go. And we're going to make some variables. I'll explain what they do in a moment. Basically, we're going to set these up in a second. They will decide whether or not the bookcase is locked to this particular alignment. So if it's locked to the x-axis or locked to the y-axis, and this is how much distance it has traveled once it begins to move, and this is the max amount of distance it can travel after it's moved. So we're going to do our checks here. So if is my flag 1, then lock x equals 1, and temp equals my.x. So basically, if either or is locked, then it knows to lock it to the appropriate x or y axis. And then while distance traveled is less than distance to travel, so if it hasn't made it to its destination yet, it will stay in this loop. And if vec_dist my.x and player.x is less than 120, so if the player is close to the bookcase, otherwise he is not close to the bookcase anymore, and we can say that stir copy. We're going to use this string for now. I'm not going to get into it, but in another tutorial we'll make it to a more universal string. But for the sake of this tutorial, and just to get through it for now, we're going to use that particular string and set papers text show. So we're going to use those two strings and text, or that string and text rather. Now we're going to position it on the screen. So 40 pixels from the bottom, somewhere relatively close to the middle. And activate the text triggered, which means that we've come close to this bookcase. The text is now showing. We could simply go like this because now we're away from it. That makes sense, right? And just reset that. Unfortunately, it doesn't work like that. We have to say that if text triggered equals 1, then it will do that. Otherwise, it would loop in this reset, and if you go up to another bookcase or something else that is utilizing this text, it will not show, because in every other else it's overpowering with a reset. So therefore, we placed it inside of this if statement, and once it's reset, then we can text triggered equals 0, reset that, and that will basically lock it out of entering through this if statement once more until you get close to it, where it then sets this back to 1, allowing this again. But keeping in mind, of course, this only activates if you've moved away from it. So if key enter while you're close to it means you're trying to move it. So while, we'll just use this instead of typing it out again. So it's the same condition. And right here, we also need to reset the papers text. So we can also copy this. Not good practice, but as I usually say in my tutorials, for the sake of finishing this tutorial in a timely manner, I will copy and paste. But it's always good to write it out because you'll remember it better that way. Alright, so now if lock x equals 1, so if we've locked, if we've set this to, if we've set the flag 1, then lock x is equal to 1, so therefore it would know already that lock x is equal to 1, and it would know that it is otherwise not. So if it is, then my dot x equals temp, and my dot y plus equals 16 times step. And otherwise just reverse the coordinates, the axis. It's XY coordinates, or whatever you want to call it. Distance traveled, moving on, plus equals 16 times time step. So basically, every time this cycles through, regardless if it's this one or this one, this will increment by 16, and so will these, depending on which one you've selected. So instead of writing it in there twice, it only needs to be in there once, since it will be executed after these anyhow. Alright, so now we have to go back into WED, select our bookcase, apply the action, click flag 1 because it's going to be sliding along the y-axis here, and so therefore by setting flag 1 we're locking it to the x-axis. Right, so basically we're doing like this, where this is no longer allowed to move any way except for this. So basically, like, if we grab it from the actual object, that's essentially what we're doing, is limiting where it can move. So now we need to build and update your entities. Alright, so on line 105, dot x and dot y. Sorry about that. Okay, so now if we walk up to our bookcase, we get our message, press enter, and it slides over. Alright, now you can play around with this, but I find it works pretty good that if the player is in the way and you press enter, he's kind of just pushed out of the way. So it's not that bad, but if you wanted to make it really complex and figure that out, you could you could look into some actual collision detection, but this is just a simple method of doing this.